Welcome to Residential Tech Talks. I'm Jeremy Glowacki, Executive Editor of Residential Tech Today. On this week's podcast, Melanie Niemerg joins us from Clearwater, Florida, where, along with her husband Paul, she is owner of Integral Systems, a company that specializes in residential and commercial security and smart home automation. Integral Systems offers a platform that allows homeowners and businesses to enjoy the benefits of smart technology without seeing it. With that goal in mind, their firm is actively involved in their local NARI branch, which is the National Association of the Remodeling Industry. And in fact, that is exactly how I connected with Melanie on LinkedIn when she was presenting a continuing education class to her local NARI branch. She also presented at the Kitchen and Bath Trade Show, KBIS, last month in Orlando. And then just yesterday, I learned about her successful presentation to interior design students and automation and integration students at a local technical school. A former teacher with parents who are both business professors, she has clearly found a way to add even more value to her already important role in her company. Today, we'll learn more about Melanie's path to co-owning a CI business and a lot more about what kind of technology is finding its way into Integral Systems projects in Clearwater and Tampa, Florida. Melanie Niemerg, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. This is fun. I enjoy this.
Great. I want to go back to when I pitched you on the podcast about coming on the podcast. You're well interested, but a little bit reluctant, and kind of wanted to defer to having your husband Paul involved. And one of my selfish reasons was it's Women's History Month, and I just did not want to have any more dudes on the podcast this month. I wanted to go all women all the way the rest of the way, and that made you laugh, and I think kind of sealed the deal. And I got you to agree that you didn't need Paul on here to sit in the background
and he would agree. He would be like, "You don't need me on there."
Yeah. Well, that's great confidence from him to you, but also I found he's an introvert like me, so don't put him through that agony. That's not necessary. You can handle this part of it. So very, very great. Good to see you and meet you. And I just keep seeing posts on LinkedIn about your training stuff, and it goes from that one that you did for the remodelers chapter, where you said you got to face your fears or push yourself. And I thought that sounds like how I feel about stuff like that. And once you've got through it, you just feel like, wow, I'm able to do this, and I want to do it again. And it sounds like that's exactly what's going on. You've got another couple of educational efforts and presentations under your belt. Tell me how that experience has been for you.
Well, it's been a lot of fun and eye-opening in many ways. It kind of started out where in January, I meet with a group of women virtually through the Women in Consumer Technology group. I can't remember who even started it, but I meet with, and we're from all around the country.
Okay.
And one of the things we were going to be talking about in January was someone wrote a book called The Year of Yes, and saying yes to things that propel you forward, like your business, personally, just allowing for growth. And so when I was asked by the NARI, the NARI group, I'm on the board, and they said, we would really like you to plan the events. I was like, yes, okay. Mm-hmm. And so I did help put on and host what you saw the picture of was our Contractor of the Year Awards.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yes. So if you're familiar with Winter the Dolphin, we held our awards at that aquarium.
Okay.
Yeah. Where Winter the Dolphin was at. And so we did the awards there, and there was even like a local lady that's an investigative journalist, and she's actually used the remodelers in NARI to help with some different we know there are bad actors out there, and so she used their expertise in some of these things she was investigating. So anyway, she was there. All that to say, I emceed for the night.
Okay.
I made my husband run the AV,
Yeah, I saw him
and
sitting quietly in the background, just running
yep.
the technology. That's good to
And I know. I think if we could have just put a screen in front of him, he would have been even
have.
more happy.
Right.
And I emceed. I wrote the script for the night where I was introducing each winner. And anyways, I just felt myself like sweating all night. I was like, oh my gosh. But I was like, I can do this. Like, I can do scary things. And so, doing that, then I had also at the same time said yes to being on a panel for KBIS. And I was on that with Josh Christian from HTI
Right.
and Heather from, I always forget.
Heather Sidorowitz
Yes.
from
Yes.
and she's in Buffalo, and I'm just trying
Yes.
to remember. Now I'm not prepared.
I
I
know
don't
now
remember
I'm
any,
forgetting the name of her
but
company.
she bought her integration company. She's a writer for our magazine as well, and she bought her integration company from her
Oh,
father. So it's a family business, but she owns it outright and runs the thing. She's a
yes.
girl boss all the way.
Yes, she is like a powerhouse. And just from being on that and talking to her beforehand, she was very encouraging. And, I think that sometimes, I think for anyone in any business you're in, there are certain times where you can be like, oh, I feel like I have imposter syndrome, right? Like,
Yeah.
who am I to be doing this? But she was like, no, you can do this. You have good points of view. You have good things to say. You can do this. And so from there, while I was at KBIS, which is like a whole other sermon about integrators showing up at these other trade shows, there was a interior design instructor at our local technical college who brought her students over there, and she heard me on that panel, and she was like, oh my gosh, a woman in AV who lives in our
Oh,
area. So as soon as
okay.
she got back, she emailed me and told me how they had also started. This is brand new because like they have low voltage and electrical, but this is the first year they're doing like security and automation.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, what? I was like, that's so exciting. So she said, would you be willing to come in and do like a joint presentation? And I was kind of like what we talked about at KBIS. And I was like, absolutely. And so I used to be a teacher. So getting up in front of these young adults was a lot easier than to
Okay.
get up in front of like, more seasoned pros.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. And let me tell you, these students are hungry. They're hungry to learn. They want to know, they want to hear from professionals. And I think someone had asked me like, well, what was your biggest takeaway or a few
Hmm.
takeaways? And I think it was that I left going, you know what? Shame on us from those of us in the trades if we are not, especially in our industry, if we are not somehow getting involved in our community with this. If
Right.
you have like a technical college near you, get involved somehow. I'm not saying you have to go teach or present, even if it's that you can give some resources or get
Right.
them plugged in with some resources. I started reaching out near and far to my resources to say, what literal tools,
Hmm.
things can we get in there to help these young men and women learn?
Right.
And people were like, yes, I want to be a part of that. So I'm excited. Even Milwaukee Tools, like I sent
Mm.
in my NARI group, Milwaukee Tools has a rep in there. And I just reached out to him and he said, get me a list and I'll send that to who it needs to be sent. So I asked my husband, I said, hey, what tools do you find you use the most often on a job? And he gave me a list and I sent that out and I thought, okay, that's what we want them to know, right? We want them to know basic use of these tools.
Yeah.
And we even have some cameras in our warehouse with the software security cameras. And we're going to give them a box of those. So these young adults can learn how to hang a camera, how to point it, how to,
Right.
get on the software and do all that, wire it up. So we need to, if we know there is a job shortage or a trade shortage, right, in the
Hmm.
workforce, then we need to do our part to let those know who are working towards that. Hey, this is a worthy industry and this is a worthy job. Your skills, that's a good skill to learn. So we're going to give you the tools you need to learn it and be successful because I need to find more employees.
Yeah, sure.
So I was like, hey.
Yeah, no, it's so logical when you can find that, because you think, okay, I'm busy enough. I'm so overwhelmed with my day to day. How can I spend any time with these people? But you hear every single company in this industry is short of employees and don't know where to find them. And it's all levels. So it's not going to solve everything. You know, you might need
Right.
a project manager who is much more seasoned, and that's going to be a tougher find. But
Right.
for someone who you want to pull wire, to do technician work, have them on a career path to become maybe a project manager someday, but
Right.
know that they've got some baseline education. And that is such a worthwhile effort to go reach out to those schools if you've got them in your area and do what you've done. I think that's brilliant. I know that CD has tried to do this, and it's just so hard to do it on a national level. You can, it really has to be grassroots, and this is really a great example of that. So congratulations on that. What an organic way of having just that yes moment and then another yes moment, and just continuing to, and now here you are on a podcast because of that first yes is why you're here, frankly. Great work. I mean, what a great example of not being scared of a new thing. So a lot of us could really learn that lesson. I did want to kind of step back though and go over how it is. You said that your husband clearly was the reason why you were able to become an owner in the custom integration business, but could you kind of give us a little background of how I know you were a teacher for a while, but your path, did you ever think as a kid you'd be involved in technology at all?
No.
Right.
Never saw myself here in a million years. But it's just funny, right? Like how life works out and how it all works out. So my parents are both retired business professors. My older sister is a small business owner. She has a wellness center. She's a licensed mental health therapist. But we both went into teaching. But growing up, our parents kept telling us, if you want to make good money, don't go into teaching.
Right.
They were like, go into business for yourselves. And we both became teachers. Well, so fast forward, my husband was working for an electrical company. They moved him into the low voltage side. He was really enjoying that. Another guy said, hey, I think we can do this together. And so they started a company together. Well, I think that was after like 3 or 4 years, which, by the way, the day my husband left the electrical company, which a great electrical company, the day he left and said, okay, I'm going to do this other company full time, he came home and I was like, so by the way, I'm pregnant with our second child.
Oh.
I was like, here we go. Yeah. So I stayed home. I was staying home with my kids. And then after about 3 or 4 years, that business partnership dissolved. Okay. And he said, okay, I still want to have my own company. Why don't you be the owner, like 100% owner, but let's do this together. And I was like, whoa, okay. So he holds the license. I am 100% owner. And so with that, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to get a lot of advice from my parents because I've never done this before. And obviously he had been doing that, running a company for 3 or 4 years. So he was teaching me things. And my sister, being a business owner, she stepped out of teaching and said, okay, I'm going to do counseling full time. Okay. And she was like, okay, and I'm an avid reader. I read everything. And she said, here are the books you need to read. Here are the podcasts you need to listen to. So that's what I started doing. And then so I was just I was just a little silent. My husband was mainly running things. And then about 3 or 4 years ago, all of our kids were in school full time. And I said, okay, I am going to sit in the driver's seat and we're going to go to the next level. And just all that reading, all that listening pulling from my resources. I feel like I tell Paul, I'm like, we're like the little engine that could, like, we just keep plugging along and plugging along. And I make these goals and we reach this goal. And I'm like, okay, let's shoot for a bigger goal. And what do we want to do? What do we want this year to look like? And so that's how I came into this. But I will say, I love the business side of it. Like, I'm not the integrator. I'm not in the field. So I never want anyone to think that I am.
Right.
But I love networking and meeting interior designers, architects, builders, anyone in that design build space. We're going to be good friends. So I enjoy that. So I go out, I bring them in, I introduce them to my husband, my project manager, Spencer, and they kind of take over from there.
Okay. So are you ever selling? Are you going through products and things like that with them? Or are you just really going broad overview and then you bring in the technical guys?
Yes. So I really am I'm at the broad overview, but I feel like I'm kind of a good starting point because I'm not so in the weeds.
Yeah.
It's this base level, and how can we partner with you as the builder or the remodeler or the designer to make you shine? This homeowner wants technology. They need the technology. You want to keep your designs pretty. We're going to give you low visible impact and make you shine. And so I feel like when I approach it more from like a layman's point of view,
Sure.
and, and I've taken some, I'll have my husband go with me, take a remodeler out to lunch. And we're like, tell us your pain points. Like what has it been like working with, those in the low voltage industry? And sometimes they don't really, they don't have great things to say. And so I'm like, okay, we're going to change that point of view and, give us a chance to prove ourselves, work with us. And so I feel like I got that advice from Jamie Briesmeister. And she said, take them out to lunch and like find out, what have they experienced and how can you counter that? And so I took her advice and that's what I did. And it has really paid off.
And what about homeowners then? Are you also, would be a great kind of message and interface with a homeowner. Obviously, they may have a little more of an idea of the types of technology they want in their home, or maybe they don't at all. And you can just kind of stay at that comfortable level and say, this is how we do it. And then you bring in the more technical voice and say, this is more of the specifics if you want to know them. Otherwise, this is kind of the idea of where you're going to go with this. Like, how about that part of it?
Yeah, I would say when a homeowner calls here, because I'm usually here at the office, and I'll start talking to them, and I'm taking notes. I'm putting them in our. Am I allowed to say brands on here and stuff like that?
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you some of your top brands. So go for it.
Yeah. Okay. So for our day-to-day, for our scheduling and all that, we use the Projects 360.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, and that has been a really good fit for us. And even our other team members, when we introduced it, back in as of January 1st, I was like, we have got to use this system. We were kind of messing with it, going through the trainings and then not doing anything. And I was like, this is crazy. So as of January 1st, I was like, we're going at this. So that has been that's been a game changer. I would say like we should be doing, right? Like keeping better track of that, when you do the proposal and you, actually put in the hours, did you go over those hours? Did you lose money? Did you make money on that job? So we use Projects 360. So I'll put notes in that, or I'll put, send notes to the project manager. And then he usually reaches out to the homeowner from there. But if I talk to them on the phone, I'm, taking notes, and then he will follow up with them. And sometimes they come here to the showroom. Sometimes they know really what they want, or he'll go out and do a site walkthrough educate them. And I think, and he's really good at that, of educating homeowners
Okay.
with the specific brands. And when he hears like, okay, they're saying this, so now I need to suggest this. Like he's so good at that.
Well, notoriously, our sort of Achilles heel in the industry has been the business acumen. So to
Mm-hmm.
have you in that role and so into it and focused on it and not distracted by being out in the field and really just
Mm-hmm.
not wanting to let go. So many folks in this industry start out as a technician or as a sole proprietor, getting out
Mm-hmm.
there and doing the work for them, selling it, installing it, doing the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
and they can never quite let go of that role. It's just,
Yes.
it's like it's their comfort zone. And
Mm-hmm.
then they go back and they go, oh, I gotta send out invoices. Ugh, like
Yes.
that kind of thing. And if you're just
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, this is what I do, and I get to interface with these other partners, and that's great
Mm-hmm.
too. The training, what a great freedom, really, to have that
Mm-hmm.
in the company from both
Yeah.
your husband's side and your side, just not to have to be distracted by too many different bouncing balls. So
Yes.
very cool.
Because it's hard to work on your business when you're working in your business.
Exactly.
It's so
Exactly.
hard.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to continue our conversation with Melanie Niemerg after the break.
Do you want superior smart home automation at a great value? Shelly Wi-Fi Relays by Allterco Robotics cover DC to line voltage, allowing you to control lights, outlets, appliances, garage doors, pumps, and much more. There are Shelly sensors and power measurement devices to help you measure temperature, humidity, lux, or motion, and electrical consumption from single wire to 3-phase with neutral. You can use Shelly with a licensed driver for Control 4, Elon, or other premium systems, as well as your customer's existing hub, voice assistant, or any platform that accepts REST, MQTT, or CoAP. Shelly can make IoT very easy. Available now at Blackwire, City Electric Supply, and Worthington, or at shellyusa.com.
Welcome back. We're talking with Melanie Niemerg, owner of Integral Systems in Clearwater, Florida. And I almost said Nieberg because that happened so easily off the tongue. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the projects that your company has done that you're proud of. I saw a few things on your website, but I wanted to let you maybe say, here's some of the things that we're doing. A lot of outdoor stuff. Being in Florida, that seems like a great fit. It's talking about brands a little bit. You have a Florida brand there in your arsenal on the outdoor stuff. Maybe I'll let you say
Coastal Source, yeah.
Yes, Coastal Source
Yes.
down in really South Florida.
Yep.
I've been invited. I didn't get to go down there, but I've heard I missed out. What other types of technology or products that you're using or cool projects that you can tell us about?
Well, so I will say one of the guys just went to a training for it, which is, again, it's a company based out just maybe an hour and a half south of me, is Progressive Screens.
Yes.
And yes, and that is like, we're super excited to sell that product because here, I don't know how many times I have boarded up my home for a stupid hurricane or a
Right.
tropical storm. And these screens, not only, are there like the bug screens, but these hurricane rated screens. And so, especially, we have so many customers that have second homes here. And so from New York, right, they can put that screen down from their phone,
Cool.
And so we do use Control 4 as our automation platform, but we also use, we are Lutron dealers. We also are Josh AI, and we really love Josh. We love to sell Josh. So I have a son named Josh, so I cannot call it that at the house.
Oh, right.
Or I said to him, I was like, what would you think if I was like, hey, Josh, put the shades down. Josh, turn on the lights. Josh, do that. He was like, I would not, like that. So we sell a lot of that, and they, with the different apps on the phone, our customers can do things remotely. And, but those progressive screens they're pretty phenomenal. Like there's a video where this like 2x4, I can't remember, it was something like 300 miles an hour, and that 2x4 shot at that screen and it just bounces off.
Wow, that's cool.
Yes. So to me, that's exciting to be able to offer to customers.
Yeah.
And then the coastal source, we sell a lot of that to
Talk about
customers.
outdoor durability.
Yes.
For them to be in South Florida and know what it takes to survive the climate. I think they're a perfect fit for a Florida
the salt
company.
water, the sun, and so many homes that we do are right there on the Gulf. So, and I think that's one thing is like, we really do, you know, tend to offer first, right, on the coastal source, because we know the elements, and our business model is not one that is, let's install this and then we have to keep coming back for servicing.
Right.
We want to install quality products, give our customer quality products, so that we're not having to come back out and do all these service calls all the time. You know,
Right.
we want them to be happy with their system. We want them to not get frustrated with their technology. So, or say, hey, I just spent a lot of money on this and and you guys keep coming out. So,
Right. Well, what about, I know you balance commercial with your residential mix. What types of commercial projects have you done?
So we are in hospitals. We do security cameras at one of the malls. We are in banks with like security cameras. And then a car, let's see, there's a local car dealership, but he has quite a few of them. And so that we've been working in those with their AV. Which I hope to get. I'm actually working on updating my website, because I was like, we have done so many projects over the last 2 years that we need to get on there. But it's been hard, you know, to get in people's homes, to get pictures taken. And
yeah, absolutely.
You know, yeah. So, and with the way the supply chain has been, it's like, oh, you could have had this job done in this amount of time, getting pictures, get them on the website, boom, boom, boom. Whereas now it's like the phases because of the supply chain. So
I was going to ask you about that. I vowed to not end on a supply chain question because it's such a bummer, but I always end up getting there. And so you've been learning how to do what you can do while you've got the product, and then next stage you have to wait for it, right?
Yeah, and as soon as we get that down payment, we're ordering products.
Yeah.
Even though, you know, we know that job's not going to be able to start right away, but if we can get those things ordered and get them here as soon as possible and get started, it's been our goal.
Yeah, and fortunately, everybody on every level is experiencing this, so it's not new to say that that'll be a slight delay or we'll have to stretch this out a little bit. But it's got to be tough on you as a business owner too, dealing with cash flow and all that, knowing that you're going to have delays.
I think we've done a good job managing it, you know, trying to figure it all out.
Well, that's great. And I thought it was interesting how much of a security focus you have. Some companies, that's not an area that they're comfortable in. Do you have to have any licensing for security in Florida right now?
Yeah. So to do that, you do have to hold your low voltage license.
Okay. And your husband's also an electrical contractor by license as well from his prior role?
Well, so when he worked at the electrical company, he did get his journeyman's license, and then he did take the electrical state licensing test. He passed. He just, at that point, he just was like, you know what, we're just going to focus on low voltage. You know, when it comes to insurance and all that, he's like, let's just focus on low voltage. So,
right.
So that's really why we just stayed in that umbrella.
Right.
And so I would say our commercial jobs definitely focus on the security side. And it was interesting when March of 2020 happened. I didn't know, like we kind of sat there going, okay, how is this all going to look? What are we going to do? And I thought, okay, we've got a really good hefty commercial side that's going to carry us. And the commercial stuff kind of dropped off for a good 3 months. And obviously, as we know, the residential just took off. And I was like, I did not see that coming.
Right.
And so that, and then, after a few months, security came, or the commercial jobs came back online. A little slower moving in that sense, but 2 years later, we're doing great on both sides. But I do think on the commercial side, at least not for me, but what I hear my husband talk about is that's always like a good, those are good projects for, when we have young guys come in and they're new working with us, that kind of has that, there's some more redundancy in that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and just training them the way I say we, I am not training them, but the way, Paul and Spencer want them trained, they can, that's like a good place to do that. So, like you said, it is, I'm excited, especially about, like we're talking about, training young people, to hire them. And because it's like you don't have someone coming in going, well, this is the way I've always done it.
Right.
There's that company culture. There's just the way you do things. For instance, when I spoke to the automation program, those students
Mm-hmm.
their instructor said, hey, can you talk to us about the reality of being on job sites and like
Mm-hmm.
expectations? And I thought that's really good. That's like a good question and a good topic, because for them, so when my husband worked at the electrical company, the biggest, like one of the big things they honed in on was you leave that job site nicer than you found it.
Right.
Like you make sure you always clean up. And so that's what they hone in on now. Make sure whenever you leave, wherever you're at, commercial or residential, you leave that job site better than you found it.
Mm-hmm.
And so talking to them about that, and about just, because it was really cool. They have this classroom, and then they have this big like warehouse classroom where they have 2x4s up and they're learning how to run wire and cabling and stuff like that. And I was like, that's a perfect example of when you're done with what you're doing here in the classroom, make sure you clean up that area, like get used to that.
Yeah.
So I was like, we're going to train up little minions here.
That's awesome. What a great message. And you've got to think back to when you were in college or right out of college, and the things you just didn't realize or know about.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some simple things like that about professionalism. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember a moment when I was interning and I was done with my day, I thought, and I didn't tell anyone I was leaving. And my colleague said, you're supposed to report in to the boss before you just go home. and I was like, really?
Oh,
Yeah. And it's like such a
okay.
obvious thing as an adult, someone in your
Right.
50s, but
Mm-hmm.
cleaning up, and making it so impressive. And some people still don't act like that as adults,
Yeah.
but that's something you have to do as a contractor. Clearly the booties on the shoes and the whole, making the
Yes.
homeowner feel comfortable that you're not just like trudging through in boots or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So
Yeah.
many things. So, do you have a plan to come back and do more training, or is it more on the providing tools part of it now for you for that school?
For me, well, so I was asked to be a part of the advisory board for the design students, the
Oh, cool.
decorator students,
Mm-hmm.
because I just thought I was so impressed with their instructor. She was so forward thinking. And one of the things that she had her students do when they went over to KBIS was, she said 3 things when you get back that I want you to write about. Obviously, countertops, obviously, cabinets, that kind of stuff. And the third thing was technology, smart home technology. And so and I thought, that's so impressive, right?
Yeah.
Because I find myself having to really beat that drum and I'm trying to be the loudest voice in the room without being the obnoxious voice, and going, bring us in on the design phase. Like, don't wait till the walls are up and then let the homeowner go, oh yeah, I wanted some speakers put in,
Yeah.
And it's like, wait. So I thought, this is so great to be getting these young people who are going into this profession used to thinking about, okay, I need to include technology. I need to make room for that in my planning. And so she said, would you sit on our advisory board so you can, if there's anything I'm missing? And I mean, I love that. I was like, absolutely. So for me, I personally am going to make the time to go back. I'm going to try to get my husband to go in and give any kind of, because don't you think like that real life training, is so good. And to see if he can come back and help with something, but definitely I'm trying to round up anything I can for their classroom. Anything, tools, cameras. I don't know. I'm not asking for anything big or expensive or crazy, just
to get a little
things.
Just to get a little hands-on experience with the stuff, right?
Yeah. If there's, speakers, anything that's been returned or, stuff like that.
Well, hopefully we have some folks listening to this that would be interested in providing that. I think there have been in the past a lot of great contributions to efforts like this. So great work, Melanie. I think that's really cool. I'm so glad I got to hear your story about this, and best of luck with the continuation of saying yes to things and learning.
Thank you.
Having new opportunities. And I appreciate you taking the time out today to talk to us.
My pleasure. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Melanie Niemerg is owner of Integral Systems in Clearwater, Florida. You can find her on LinkedIn and learn more about her company at integralfl.com. That wraps up today's show. If you're new to Residential Tech Talks, please subscribe to the weekly podcast on your preferred platform and consider rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. Also, check out all the latest residential tech news at the magazine's website, restechtoday.com, where you can also subscribe to the bi-monthly print and digital magazine or to our Tuesday and Friday email newsletters. Until next time, please stay safe, stay inspired, and let us know if you have a great story to tell.
Residential Tech Talk, lighting specialist to Residential Tech Talk.
Home automation device, home or smart house.